I have never before seen 17 full no contact protective orders against the same individual with the same victim. That really raises the bar for me. Forced your way into her apartment, kicking down the door.
Yes.
It appears to be your entire criminal history dating back to 2011 is domestic violence.
Yes, ma'am.
What about allowing your partner to use the bathroom and close the door when they do that? Do you have a problem with that?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
And you heard correctly, 17 violations of a protection order, time and time and time again. Can you even imagine how many times can you possibly get away with it in the state of Connecticut before a judge would just say, enough is enough, throw away the key? But even then, even on the 17th violation, breaking down her door, they still only give a maximum potential sentence of 3 years. Yes, his full term date is 8/14/2026, regardless of when he gets out. He was only sentenced on October of 2023. This is a dangerous man. A man, we hear about this stuff in the news all the time. Man violates a protection order, and then he kills her. And then the whole world goes, oh my gosh, we need to do better to protect to protect those from the crazy. You heard it. You heard it yourself. The guy's not letting her go to the bathroom with the door closed. But here it is in front of our judges and our DAs. They don't seem to care. This blows my mind. I don't know how it's possible. I just don't. But we will go over all the information that Lady Holly provided. You can see his long record. It just goes and goes and goes. And what's interesting is that they kind of just give no sentences or small suspended sentences time and time and time again. And I'll show you that in the unpacking. It's weird. It's scary. It's dangerous. And it's the ones that I blame, I got to tell you, is not the people who commit the crime. Because, what can you do? The one I blame in this situation, it is the DA. It is the judge.
Good morning, Marcus Knight, 366-526.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Marcus Knight, inmate number 366-526. He's serving a sentence of 5 years executed suspended after 3 years jail with 2 years probation for 2 counts of violation of protective order, violation of probation with the underlying offense of possession with intent / distribute narcotics, and criminal possession of a firearm. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of February 14th, 2025. There is victim input in this case. There is no offender accountability plan for the offender. However, the offender has completed the domestic violence program and embracing fatherhood. The offender is currently participating in the Tier 2 program. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score on the SRT falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole.
You have something that you want to read to us?
Yes, sir, absolutely. Good morning, my name is Marcus Knight. I am writing this letter to take full accountability for my past actions and express my sincerest remorse for the choices that led me to this point. I understand that my decisions not only affected my own life, but also caused harms to others. And for that, I take full responsibilities. There are no excuses for my actions, and I have spent my time in incarceration reflecting on the impact I had on my victims, my loved ones, and my future. Through counseling and self-improvement programs, I have come to recognize where I went wrong and how I must change to ensure that I never make the same mistakes again. I have learned that accountability is not only about admitting fault, but also about actively working to become a better person, someone who contributes positively to society rather than harming. Domestic violence is never okay. and I understand my behavior was totally unacceptable. Domestic violence can take many forms, including physical, emotional, and psychological abuse. And it is essential to recognize that all forms are equally damaging. By perpetrating domestic violence, I not only hurt my loved ones, but also contributed to a culture of fear, control, and oppression. As someone who's been involved in DV, I've learned that it's crucial to address the underlying issues, such as anger management, communication skills, and healthy relationships. I've been working hard to educate myself, seek counseling, and develop empathy and compassion for those who've been affected by domestic violence. I want to assure you that I'm committed to being a positive force in my community, and I'm eager to continue my contributions to the efforts to prevent domestic violence and support those who have been affected by it. During my time in prison, I have taken every opportunity to rehabilitate myself through domestic violence classes and Tier 2 addiction services that have helped me understand the importance of responsibility and integrity. I am committed to proving that I have grown and that I am ready to re-enter society as a law-abiding citizen. I ask for the opportunity to demonstrate this change, not with just words, but with my actions. If granted release, I plan to maintain stable employment, reconnect with my family in a healthy way, and to contribute to my community in a meaningful manner. I know that trust must be earned, and I am fully prepared to show that I am no longer the person who made those past mistakes. So I did take domestic violence classes, and what I have learned from domestic violence is physical and emotional and psychological abuse are all equally damaging. Not only that I hurt my loved ones, but contribute to a culture of fear, control, and oppression, and that is never okay. And also communication is the key. So communication is the key. I also took online courses for anger management, and it taught me how to communicate when you're angry. Anger is an emotion that triggers a strong response. So in my toolbox, I have 5 steps for communicating when you're angry. Step 1, breathe, take a breath until calm. Step 2, change position, because shifting your body will shift your thoughts rather than a reaction. Step 3, ask myself why. Why am I upset? Why did these actions or words make me so angry? Step 4, share feelings of anger and my why statement. Step 5, talk to the other one involved. And also, I completed Tier 2 program. I have my certificate. So for the addiction service, I had noticed my triggers. And noticing my triggers, I had to find coping skills to deal with those triggers. Using alcohol, I tried to ignore my problems. The distorted thinking caused by the addiction, such as denial, kept me from seeing the true nature of my problems. So I plan on staying sober and attending support meetings in my community. I also want to be a better father to my kids, so I enrolled myself in the fatherhood program. When dads are involved in their children's life, children are more likely to experience educational success. They're more likely to form successful partnerships as adults, and they're also more likely to believe in their own self-worth. I have wrote a pledge on my honor. I will give my children my time, my love, my heart. I will be a good example of a good man to my children and others around me. I will be an involved, responsible, committed father. I pledge to be a 24/7 dad. And last but not least, I wrote down a few of my short-term goals and long-term goals. So I want to be a mentor in my community. I want to speak to the kids, and I also plan on opening a landscaping business to help with discipline. I also want to strengthen the relationship with my kids and attend any support meetings and group that benefit me to become a better man. I have plans on going to therapy, and I want to build a stronger relationship with God. So I also plan on going to church. My long-term goals is maintain sobriety and maintain a healthy relationship within myself and others. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Well, it's obvious you've been busy.
Absolutely. I also took the Pell program for business management, and I do plan on furthering my education on another semester for business management. I am also working in the kitchen, and I just love keeping myself busy.
So did the quality of the food at Osborne go up? Huh?
I'm sorry, say that one more
The
time.
quality of the food at Osborne went up?
The quality of the food in Osborne went up? Yeah, I would say so.
They have somebody that's a trained chef working in the kitchen.
Yes, sir.
There you go. So we've read about your background and what you've done that's brought you to this incarceration. We've read about what you've done inside Sense and the programs that you've taken and things like that, and your interview with the parole officer. And based upon that, we have some questions for you.
Yes, sir.
When we get done taking turns with questions, the Office of Victim Services has some input here. And during that portion of the hearing, you're not allowed to say anything. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then we're going to discuss your case and we're going to give you a decision. Okay?
Absolutely.
So, one of the things that I keyed in on here very much so is, can you tell me what a protective order is?
Well, a protective order is set in place to protect the victim. And
Okay.
in
And when there's a protective order in place, what are you not supposed to do?
You are not supposed to contact the victim at all. You is not supposed to threaten the victim. You pretty much is not supposed to. You're supposed to stay away from the victim and not contact them whatsoever.
And that contact, what does contact mean?
Calling, texting, going to the victim's house.
So what motivated you to several times break that protective order? What was the motivation behind that?
So I would say anger and I would say stubbornness and anger.
Okay, and anger how? Not getting your way?
I would say anger and being in a toxic relationship.
Okay, so sometimes two people they just aren't meant to be in a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And the anger piece of this that you were talking about and the stubborn piece that you were talking about, how did that play out?
It played out. I'm aware of some text messages that been sent by me, and it affected the victim emotionally, and that was definitely not.
Can we back up for just a second?
Yep.
I think the terminology there is a little short, right? I'm aware of, right? And there's a little more to it than that though, right?
Absolutely.
So you're aware that you sent text messages.
I'm aware that I broke the law by contacting the victim while a protective order was set in place and set in motion. And I can't really say and justify it with anger or anything. It was just the wrong thing to do.
It's absolutely the wrong thing to do. You know, and when it comes down to it, you know, it's like what you sent, you know,
That's correct.
what
And
you sent was read by the police on the other end, you know,
correct.
and you know, and regardless, right, of you know, protective order or not, right? Two people shouldn't be in a relationship where somebody's treated like that.
Absolutely. And
Right.
and I would be heartbroken if, you know, I have daughters. So I can't see my daughters in that same situation. So it's like, what if someone was treating your daughters this way? Back then, I kind of didn't see. I was distorted. My mind was distorted, and I wasn't worrying about consequences and how did it look. But now, just watching the news every day, you have someone killing their girlfriends, and it's just ridiculous.
It is. I mean, it's more than ridiculous. It's tragic,
Absolutely.
you know? I mean, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You can't get on a device or on a phone or whatever and just, you know, terrorize somebody. You know, and when you get a threat on the other end of that phone, how do you think the person feels?
That's
You know?
correct. That's correct. Absolutely.
And you know, that's really important, you know. And I'm really glad that you took the domestic violence program. And you certainly laid out, you know, in your remarks in the beginning, you know, what you've taken away from that.
Right.
And anger management wasn't on your OAP, but you said
Right.
that you took an online anger management course, and you know, two of the things that you identified that are problems with you when it comes to domestic situations are being stubborn and being angry,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes, sir.
And you know, you also came up with a plan for, you know, when you get there.
Correct.
You know, it's like it's relationship building skills, you know, and part of it, whether it's here on parole or whether it's on probation, part of that's going to be another piece of the domestic violence program called Explore. You know,
Yes. Yes, sir.
and go into that with an open mind and trying to develop, just like you just did with anger management and such, develop those skills so that somebody else isn't affected the way you affected somebody here.
Absolutely. And my time being incarcerated, I actually had a friend that was going through domestic violence. And with my networks, I actually got her into a domestic violence shelter. And, you know, I started noticing things from the outside looking in.
I mean, and that's and when you can see that, you see how people are affected.
Absolutely.
Just not okay, because then, you know, it also carries on, right?
Yes, sir.
That's something that you learn too, right? It's
Absolutely.
not just like text messages are sent and it goes away,
No, sir.
right?
It's emotionally messing with the victim.
And it stays with them, you know? So I'm glad to see that you finished tier 2. When you interviewed with a parole officer, you were in it and hadn't finished it yet. So when it comes to alcohol, marijuana, where are you?
So I'm heavy in the entertainment and the music business industry. So I plan on falling all the way back from the music industry because those is definitely a big trigger. So substituting the music industry, I plan on working more, going to church. And I also want to talk to the youth myself. So how can I talk to the youth if I'm not correct myself? So I definitely will have to get everything in shape so I can talk to the kids in my community. I want to be a mentor. And who knows, from now, 7 years from now, get my record expunged, I could be the mayor of Hartford.
So one of the things that I noticed when you talk to the parole officer, you had the discussion, and one of the things that you really wanted to do was get back involved in the music industry and things like that. I mean, I'm not questioning that, but I also understand that after completing tier 2, you're thinking somewhat, right?
Absolutely.
About that. The other thing I want to throw out there, though, is isn't working in the kitchen and working in the music industry kind of like the same thing?
Well, working in the kitchen, it is because you're performing. I'm doing what I love to do. But
Right.
in the kitchen, I'm fully focused. I'm fully focused in the kitchen. And I love watching people enjoy the food. Just like in the music industry, I'm watching people enjoy my music. But in the music industry, it's liquor and is drugs everywhere.
So what's going on in the kitchen?
Well, in the kitchen, I'm chefing it up. In the kitchen, I'm trying to put out the best food I can put out.
And none of that nonsense is going on around you?
I would say, like afterwards, like after the shift is over, workers that have a shift drink and such in that nature. But I never indulged into after work activities. I always went straight home to my family. So I wouldn't see working in the kitchen would be a problem at all.
Just be careful what kitchen you're in.
Absolutely. I've been in the kitchen my whole life.
And good on you for taking advantage of the second chance, pal. And doing
Absolutely.
some business management stuff. You want to go to a friend in Tallinn?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And you think you'll be able to get back the restaurant job that you had?
Oh, so I still have both of my jobs, which is in Texas Roadhouse, and I still have my third shift job in Sardilli's. So once I'm back into society, I'm ready to get back to work.
Okay, so do you think that you'll go to any meetings or anything like that, or?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, Osborne had numerous of lockdowns. So I was just getting into C-CAR. So
Yep.
I'm planning on learning more about C-CAR and attend any anger management or any domestic violence, any program that'll help me become a better man. And I also want to attend therapy so I can process everything.
Okay. All right. I'm going to see what questions other board members might have. All right.
Yes, sir.
Board Member Turner, any questions?
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Mr. Knight.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay. So what I understand from what I've read, Mr. Knight, is that you've had 17 protective orders issued against you involving your abuse of the same victim. I got that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you were incarcerated in 2019, you did Understanding Domestic Violence. And then you went out to the community and you took the Explore program in 2020 and you finished that in March. And then by June, you were back involved with threatening and violating the protective order against this victim. Forced your way into her apartment, kicking down the door. And then an August incident, you threatened to have some other women come over to her home and beat her up. So now you sound like you have some insight into your behavior, having completed domestic violence again in the facility. Why do you think it didn't work the last 2 times that you've taken programming?
Number one, I would definitely say the jail time. Number two, I would say just being on the outside looking in, seeing someone else going through domestic violence issues, and I'm on the
trying
other
to
side.
understand, Mr. Knight, why when you completed the Explore program after doing Understanding Domestic Violence, still having a protective order against you and being out on supervision, you didn't make better choices and leave this victim alone.
Yes,
It appears to be your entire criminal history dating back to 2011 is domestic violence.
You are trash, Lindsay. You are trash.
yes, ma'am.
So why didn't those programming participation, why didn't that make a difference?
I would say because we kept the relationship going. So now I realize that if it don't work, it just wouldn't work. It just don't work. The relationship.
But the relationship could have kept going without you being violent and abusive. So I'm trying to understand, why did you make those choices in the relationship? Not so much about the protective order violations, because, you know, that's just at an absurd level.
Absolutely. I would say just being immature. Just being immature and wanting to see things my way. And
Do you have issues with jealousy?
I would say more of insecurities.
Well,
Insecure.
that's how insecurity manifests. It's how it shows up is, you know, you're insecure, so you feel jealous, so then you engage in efforts to control your partner so that you can feel less insecure. If you track them and you monitor their activities so that you can somehow be more confident that they're not cheating on you, right? That's your pattern.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And
Okay.
I think
that in and of itself, Mr. Knight, is toxic.
yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And I the way you put it is definitely clear. It's definitely clear the way you put it.
I mean, I struggle with trying to understand why you would want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with you and is afraid of you. So now you've moved on. You have a new relationship, Ms. Devon. Is that
Yes,
how you
ma'am.
pronounce her last name?
Well, I'm currently not in a relationship at all.
Okay. Did that change? Isn't she your sponsor?
No. No, she's not my sponsor.
So who is your sponsor? Who's the friend in Tolland?
Cindy.
And how do you know her?
She's a family friend. A friend of the family, I'm sorry. I I have a strong support system out there. My boss, my mom, my dad, and my mentor. I figured I have to find myself before I jump in any relationship. I have to notice more about myself before I jump in any relationship. So being incarcerated definitely taught me a lot about myself.
How do you handle rejection, Mr. Knight?
Before I never liked to be rejected, but now
It's not a good feeling. Most people don't like it.
It's not, absolutely not. But now, you just move on. You just move on with life. You get up and put more pieces to the puzzle and just get on with life. To being
You try to
stagnant.
learn from it.
Yes, ma'am.
So, with all this programming and because you referenced it, what does a healthy relationship look like?
A healthy relationship should have great communication skills. I think it's based on communication and trust.
What about respect?
Respect is number one. Respect is a big one. Absolutely.
What about healthy boundaries? You know what those are?
Boundaries. Boundaries is definitely a good one.
Give me an example of a healthy boundary.
A healthy boundary, I would say, coming home late at night, because that's kind of been a big one for me. So, we set boundaries
I
in
just told
place.
my partner, my colleague, that you go right home after work.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to think of a scenario to give with boundaries, but
You want me to offer you a
boundaries,
few?
you should never disrespect. You should never disrespect your partners. That's a big boundary, especially in front of the kids.
No parole for tape. None.
Through your partner's phone and looking for
Excuse me?
evidence. How about not going through your partner's phone and looking, thinking you're going to find evidence that they're cheating on you?
You are trash.
Absolutely. That's definitely a good bound. That's a great boundary. Yes, ma'am.
Because if you already think that they're being unfaithful, then you should probably be out of the relationship.
Yes, ma'am.
What about allowing your partner to use the bathroom and close the door when they do that?
You are trash.
Do you have a problem with that?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. That's another example of a boundary, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
No parole for tape.
Okay.
No parole for tape.
So,
No parole for tape. None. Mr. Tape.
so you mentioned that you helped a friend who was experiencing abuse in a relationship. And you mentioned in your opening statement that you've been developing empathy. What does
Right.
empathy look like to you?
Well, empathy looks like to me just being more caring and noticing one's feelings. Definitely noticing one's feelings and not being selfish with my own feelings.
Have you ever had a valid license, sir?
No, ma'am.
You are trash.
So part of being an adult, and you're now 33, is, you abide by the rules of our society. So you don't drive without a license, you don't drive an uninsured or unregistered vehicle. And, you know, if you're going to be a mentor to the youth, you need to set an example.
Absolutely.
So you were in tier 4 for 3 months
Yes, ma'am.
and you left. Why did you
So
leave tier 4?
with tier 4, I wanted to live, not live, but I wanted to be comfortably inside the jail facility. So tier 4, they provided rooms, and I just wanted to go to tier 4 for all of the wrong reasons. But once I started going deeper into tier 4, I had to actually teach 4 classes of Narcotics Anonymous, and just listening to different stories about how people use drugs and steal from their own kids to provide for drugs. And it definitely gave me a better insight of narcotics. So I thought my bag could be beneficial for someone else. But I did attend tier 2, which helped me notice that I did have an alcohol problem, and there is some addiction problems that I had to take care of.
If you are an alcoholic or were an alcoholic, you are an alcoholic today.
My understanding was that you left tier 4 because you didn't like the rules.
That had contribution to it. That had a lot to do with it
What rules
also.
were you struggling with, Mr. Knight?
Well, one rule that I didn't agree with was talking in the back hallway. But now I understand why that rule was in place, because it is for people dealing with their recovery. So, you know, talking loud probably interrupt the next man in his recovery.
So you gave up the premier program at DOC so you could talk loud.
No, absolutely not. That's why I got kicked out of the program. I didn't leave the program.
I assume you had been warned other times, right? When was it that you were in tier 4?
I can't tell you off the top of my
I'll
head.
ask Officer Menard to look that up for us.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, was it before or after last August when you got the DR for contraband?
Okay, it was before.
So then you come out of tier 4 and what you were smoking in the facility? This is the time to be honest, Mr. Knight. I can see you sitting there debating about whether you're going to be telling us the truth.
I had a few bumps in the road. I got caught for a few things, and I just had too much time on my hands. So that's when I figured I had to get my
kitchen job, and you were in education, college level. You were in programs, and you still had too much free time that led you to violate the rules in the facility, jeopardize other people's recovery so that you could use.
You are trash.
Is that it?
So I got into school and worked in the kitchen and enrolled myself in these programs after the fact that I got caught with contraband.
He was in tier 4, started May 6, 2024, and his end date was June 26, 2024, discharged without prejudice.
All right, I have no more questions for Mr. Knight.
Board Member Rodriguez?
Thank you. Well, both of my colleagues have covered quite a ground in terms of questions. I had the same questions about what happened with Tier 4. I'm glad you answered them for us. When you say you were talking loud, does that mean you had attitude?
No, absolutely not. So in the back, so tier 4, you have the dorms, and then you have a separate area for the rooms in the back hallway. So my duty was to clean the bathroom in the back hallway. So in the back hallway, there's no talking whatsoever. That's one of the permanent rules. No talking, no, not even a whisper. So I may have been talking here and there in the back room while doing chores, but I still broke the rule by talking.
Thank you for sharing that. I don't have any additional questions. Thank you. My colleagues have asked quite a few questions.
Okay, Mr. Knight, your portion of the hearing is over, so you're just gonna sit there and listen from here out, okay?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Vasquez, can you please help us facilitate victim input in this case?
No parole for tape.
You are trash.
If you are an alcoholic or were an alcoholic,
You're
or
calling
an
me crazy.
alcoholic
You're my
today,
attorney.
if you are
Ms. Vasquez?
Thank you, Chair and board members. My apologies, was having some technical difficulties. We do have a victim who is connected to the hearing, and she wishes to express her wishes and concerns with all of you. At this time, the victim, you may unmute yourself.
I am writing this letter because I truly feel that Marcus Knight deserves a second chance. In the past, we had a few problems that caused a strain in our relationship. Today, Marcus and I realize that it is important to maintain a healthy relationship. Our autistic son, Legacy Knight, will turn 4 years old on March 16th, and he misses his dad dearly. Every day is a struggle, especially doing it alone. I have no family or friends. I need help, and Legacy needs his dad. I am ready to co-parent with Mr. Knight and truly feel that he has made a dramatic change. Our communication skills has gotten stronger since his incarceration. Communication is the key, and that is what we had lacked in the past. I am not in fear of my life, and I do not detect Mr. Knight as a threat at all. He is actually a kind-hearted person that loves to give back to his community. I've been with Marcus for 15 years, and I know for a fact that he has changed for the better. I forgive him for his past mistakes, and I am ready to move forward. So I please ask that you grant Mr. Knight parole. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your statement. Thank you, Chair and board members. This is all I have for this case.
Like to thank the victim for giving input in this case. So Mr. Knight has taken some programs that relate to substance use and his extensive background with violating protective orders when it comes to DV inside. He's taken as well embracing fatherhood. As we just heard from the victim, there's there's an importance to that. And of course, from my read, it's something that the court and the PO would have to work out in its entirety. Mr. Knight has skills that lead to employment. He's engaged in second chance Pell Grant program, taking some classes in business management. The very concerning DR October 23, was a year and a half ago. It's unfortunate that last August after a stint in Tier 4, he chose to use THC facility. And since he's taken the Tier 2 program, can only hope that he took something away from that. Grades out moderate with a concern in scores being his criminal history, which also concerns me. He did talk extensively about DV program. Board member Turner pointed out that it's not the first time that he's taken that program. He shared insight in that physical, emotional, and mental harm can all cut the same way. And all three of those play a role here. He also took it upon himself to take an online anger management unit where he identified 5 ways of dealing with anger that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
He also talked about triggers. He has some short and long-term goals when he is released. I think it would be a good idea for him to get out to do the DV program while he would be on parole for another year and 3 months. However, I also want to hear from my other board members.
So it's this is particularly challenging because Mr. Knight seems to have some insights, has the right language to describe what's going on, and has some perhaps new skills. I think he also struggles to be forthcoming with us. I asked about the relationship that he told Officer Menard about, and now that he don't want to talk about that. And you pointed out some distancing in his language, and I think the euphemism of toxic relationship is part of that distancing, because what makes a relationship toxic is the abuse, the threats, the disrespect, undermines any ability to have trust between partners. I'm glad he understands it's his own insecurity that he's got to work on. But we've been at this rodeo with Mr. Knight for 9 years. And I don't think it's the Explorer program that he needs. I think it's the Evolve program, and he can only get that on probation. I have never before seen 17 full no contact protective orders against the same individual with the same victim. That really raises the bar for me.
You are trash.
As well as the kinds of threats that he was making. When he was interviewed by the parole officer, he minimized his behavior, saying it was never physical, but this victim is afraid of him, at least in everything that we read. I understand, she's single parenting now, and his health is, important to her, and they certainly have a long history. I think it's a bridge too far for me today. I think he can use the additional year there in the facility to continue working on himself. And I think 3 years for what he was engaged in out in the community. And we didn't even get into the gun in his case, I think is appropriate. So I'm going to have to say no today.
Okay. Board Member Rodriguez.
Chair. But with the same situation, I do believe that he's done some work. He has gained some insight. But I struggled with it. He had taken this before. He had taken the Explorer program before, and we're still kind of in the same place. He still has a protective order that's out to 2027. So it's not as if he's going to be able to go out unless it's fixed at some point to even make the context that and I appreciate the victim statement too. I really do. I appreciate struggling out there and really use probably the help, but there's still a protective order outstanding. I didn't hear any comment about going to court to withdraw the protective order or any of that. So I sure would want to see him, kind of get wrapped up in that situation again. I also think that he could do some work while in prison. I was also struck by 17 violations of protective orders. That's an awful lot. Again, I don't want to take away from Mr. Knight's progress that he's done. I really believe that he should continue in that vein, if in fact he wants to be the man that he says he wants to be. And in this particular situation, he really needs to be able to man up in this and do the right thing for himself and for the folks that are out there that are going to be in this life. I am not going to be supportive of the discretionary today. And again, it's not because of his work. I think he needs to continue. I think he still needs to continue to work on himself and get those things accomplished.
So, current offense committed while on probation.
I mean, that's the least of it. I have criminal history, nature and circumstance, or institutional adjustment.
Okay.
And the 2 tickets.
All right. So regarding Marcus Knight 366526, I would move to deny parole at this time for nature and circumstances of the current offense, criminal history, current offense committed while on probation, and for institutional adjustment. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Mr. Knight, we weren't able to give you parole today. We appreciate that you've done a lot of work there, and we encourage you to continue to do that work.
It's the hearing for Marcus Knight, 366-526. You're all set, sir.
No parole for Tate. None. Mr. Tate is not getting parole
Because of anger issues. Who else finished that sentence? If you did, you should probably get yourself a no parole for Tate. We also have the hat. I should have put it on. I didn't. But y'all asked for the it now exists. It's on the store. It helps support the channel. And most of all, I think it's just kind of funny. Also, it's nice material. But anyways, I do enjoy when the parole board gets down and dirty on these kind of hearings. Let's see what Holly has in the spreadsheet. Mike Pohl, Rodriguez, and Turner. So for those of you not so familiar, Mike Pohl is the one who's like really, really, really nice to everybody and almost grants everybody. He was a middle school history teacher for his entire life. That's his qualifications. I don't know how he got handpicked by the governor. You have Rodriguez, who's much more, I think, down to earth. And then you have Turner, who, it's kind of a flip of a coin. They get decisions but it was good. It was enjoyable here. Just to think that you can have 17 violations of protective order. And you know what happens in Connecticut? We'll go over the info on his long record, but there's something really broken about the system. More in Connecticut. Well, it has Utah too, I think, but it's, and also Iowa. But what it is that this guy has sentence after sentence after sentence after sentence. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And each and every time the judge will say, you know what, I'm going to give you 12 months, but I'll suspend it all. I'll give you 2 years, but I'll suspend all of it, but 30. And the suspensions and the probations keep piling on and snowballing. But nothing happens. The next time he's in front of a judge, they don't say, you violated your probation, you're backing this much time. No, it doesn't happen. Even in this sentence, he only got 3 years, which the math isn't there for all the suspended time that he has saving up. Like they put it in a savings account. Like, I don't know what it is. It's building interest for him or something because it's not being used. It's just weird. I don't get, and I think everybody knows that. It's kind of a gimmick. I mean, imagine Judge Boyd or Judge Stephen or any of our favorite YouTube judges would see this guy after like the second time. They'd be like, no, you're done. 17? What is that? What is that? And I think most of us watching, I think 99% of us watching this, and if it's, well, we shouldn't be an echo chamber, so voice your opinion, but the victim, she sounded afraid to me. Even if you didn't think she sounded afraid, she is not in position to protect herself. She needs the authorities to protect her because it does not make a difference what she wants. It's very clear that she is a danger to herself, to her children, and even to him. Because if he were to come around her again, what would happen? He is going to get in trouble. Even if they remove the violation of protective order, which is crazy that it's only valid for 1 more year. I mean, he'll be at 1 year and then he'll all of a sudden be able to see her again unless she removes it. Even if it's removed, you know what's happening. We see this stuff in parole revocation hearings all the time. It's straight up where people get back to someone and it's just the bad thing. I mean, the guy literally wouldn't let it go to the bathroom with the closing the door. How sick is that? Oh. You know what else bothered me about this? The hat. It seems strange. Now, we've seen this in Utah as well. I don't know. It just seems like proper etiquette. Like, you want to impress the parole board, you should know to take off the hat. You know that Miss Bonnie Jackson would not stand for it.
It's not a good look for somebody who's trying to impress a parole board.
I miss Miss Bonnie Jackson. Well, I'll play more Bonnie Jackson, Mr. O'Shea parole hearings for you on Mandoo one. If you want it, just let me know in the email or comment section. It's hard to know. The algorithm has not been friendly to those hearings. So I don't know if it's the algorithm or if you guys just don't want to see it. So it's a tough one for me. I personally love seeing those hearings. But I think, oh yeah, I forgot. Let me go through the records that Lady Holly put together here. And I'll just go through it real quickly. So here's, you can see the 3-year sentence. He gets out in 2026. On that note, see how there's no special parole? And have you heard them talk about special parole? So special parole is something that the judge puts into the sentence, which I know it sounds really weird, special parole, but it's see, in this case, he's a flat sentence. So he's out in 3 years and he's off paper, except I don't really know with all the probations baked in time and suspended sentences, I don't really know, but let's just assume he's off paper. So if you were to have have, an assault or something, he's not going to come back for a parole revocation hearing. It's just going to be a new, fresh charge. And when you have a special parole and you do something wrong, you breathe wrong or whatever, you could just get, instead of them going through the courts and putting a new felony and trying you and taking a plea deal, you could just get taken back and have your parole revoked and go to prison. So we will always see, and I think this is really important to point out, we see very often where someone does not have special parole. They have a flat sentence like this man. And there could be a victim, a survivor saying, please don't let him out. I need 2 more years, please, to the board. And then the guy has a horrible parole hearing, the whole thing. And then the parole board will say, well, he has a flat sentence and we really want supervision. It would be really important if we could have a parole officer be there for him to make sure that he doesn't do anything to the victim. And they'll use that as the reason for denying what the survivor wants, and for releasing this man into the public. And now the reason I point this out is that I want to point to cases where here he is, he does not have special parole, but they still said no, enough is enough. And I'm just saying that because they can do that when they want to. They will say no, even if they have a flat sentence, when they want to. So the next time you see someone who has a flat sentence get paroled and they use it as an excuse to have them under supervision, just know that that excuse is a bit, I think it's a bit of a gaslight. Okay, I do, because the victim survivors should come first in those situations. And also, there's a butterfly effect. Someone has a horrible hearing, they go back, they tell their buddies, hey, I got write-ups and everything, I still got parole. Anyways, that's just my point, and I wanted to point that out because I do read the comments as people say, Mandoo, you don't understand. You don't understand. He needs supervision. Well, no, sometimes that doesn't come first, in my opinion. And so here's his long record. I think we already know, right? He has a 20. So as you can see here, criminal mischief. So it goes down to the 26 is going to go okay. So suspended sentence. Again, 1 year jail, but suspended sentence, 2 years probation. 12/2017, he has assault 3rd degree, unconditional discharge. What happened to the suspended sentence? Nothing. It's a gimmick. Now he's 12/7/2017, violation of a protective order, unconditional discharge, right? Again, nothing. Threatening 2nd degree, 1 year jail, but suspended after 90 days. So he got 90 days now, even though he had already suspended sentences and probation of 3 years, but he still got 90 days on a new charge. Arrest date 9/9/17, breach of peace, unconditional discharge. Why not? 9/13/2018. You have all of this. He has possession intent to sell, which he got 10 years, but suspended of 2 years, probation 3. So again, he's backing more time than was he even getting. Criminal possession of firearm, also same type of sentence. He was here sentenced to 3 years, but this is violation of probation. So I don't even know. I think this is the same 3-year sentence. See what they're doing? I think that's what just happened here. He got his 3-year sentence here, and they're double stacking it on the time that he owed. That's my understanding. So in a way, it's doing him a favor because it's taken away, I think, all of these hard sentences. I think he's getting to serve everything at one time. 8/25/2021, count 1, protection or violation. They sentenced him to 5 years, but suspended after 18 months, probation 2. And again, if you keep doing the math, none of it makes sense. Violation of protective order for 5 years, suspended after 18 months. It just goes on and on and on. There was an address there. I will block that. And anyways, there you have it. There you have it. I think this is a bit of a gimmick. And we hear in the news all the time, man violates protective order, kills the woman. Everyone, they go mad. They might go mad for it. They probably don't care. Only if he hurts the child in the process, because we've seen that. Then we forget because we're a bunch of squirrels. In the news, it gets our attention. We yell for about 2 minutes and we forget about it. But we could all see it coming. It's a train off the tracks. It's crazy. It's crazy Connecticut, but really it's crazy like this everywhere. And with that, I'll let you go.
I have never before seen 17 full no contact protective orders against the same individual with the same victim. That really raises the bar for me. Forced your way into her apartment, kicking down the door.
Yes,
It appears to be your entire criminal history dating back to 2011 is domestic violence.
yes, ma'am.
What about allowing your partner to use the bathroom and close the door when they do that? Do you have a problem with that?